In my time following One Piece, I have watched Nami's character become increasingly motherly or parental. Both of those work. Now, while I am sure this stems from her past with Belmare, I also believe it might demonstrate a shift in Oda's style of writing that has come from him being a father. The Elbaf arc has centered heavily on themes of parents or guardians protecting their children as Emu and the Gods Knights make continued attempts to kidnap those children. In fact, in chapter 1186, we even learn that in the past, Elbaf fell in a bid to save their children. With such heavy emphasis being placed on these themes during the arc, I believe that it is going to lead to a big moment and possibly even a power-up for Nami. Now, what might this be, you ask? What other power-ups might she receive from now until the end of the story? Well, guess what? Today, we are here to go over some of my thoughts and feelings on this very topic. In my opinion, the majority of the Straw Hats are lined up for either a Haki bloom or an upgrade to their current Haki abilities. And you know, going into the end of the story, for me anyway, it would feel better if they all had access to it in some capacity when engaging in their final set of top-tier fights. And Elbaf presents a great spot for this to happen. And for Nami, I think this is going to take the form of her unlocking Observation Haki. Now, Nami's observational skills, they are already top class, honed through her consistent need to monitor the weather and how it changes as the crew sails. Her ability to track and predict weather patterns within the Grand Line, no less, could already be considered superhuman. To give an example of this, while on their way to Alabasta, Nami, while sick, mind you, detects a change in the air, likely the air pressure. And with this, she predicts that an immense wind is heading towards the ship. This immense wind happens to take the form of a cyclone. This is something that was not apparent to anyone else on the ship at the time. She then directed the crew to turn the ship, which allowed them to just barely dodge the storm. During this event, Vivi states that Nami is unlike any navigator that she has ever seen, and that instead of predicting weather using standard theory, Nami is much closer to it. It is as if she is detecting the weather with her own body. We learned from Rayleigh that Haki is not unlike things that humans can naturally sense, which means that I think it is possible Nami has subconsciously been tapping into Observation Haki for a long time now, just specifically manifested through her weather capabilities. Mastering it would likely catapult these weather capabilities and her weather predicting ability to new heights. We also know that Haki tends to bloom in extreme situations, usually within combat. Now, Nami is not the fighter that some of the others are, but right here, right now, on Elbaf, we have the makings of quite an extreme situation for Nami, which is the kids being kidnapped by the rain god Zaza. This somewhat combines a potential need for Nami's weather abilities and her intense parental desire to protect children. While she is currently with Brook's group, I do believe there is a chance for everyone's paths to cross. That's somewhat common in the story of One Piece. How I see this playing out is that in a moment of desperation, when the children are about to be taken, Nami will either be the only one or in the small group capable of saving them. And in that very moment, right as the kids are about to be swiped, Nami will unlock Observation Haki, which will enable her to predict, track, and interrupt Zaza and allow for the safe retrieval of the children. I believe one reason that Oda is holding Haki back from some of the Straw Hats is because he wants to preserve their unique abilities and their personal methods of still becoming top tiers in the story. So like with Brook, how I said that his Haki may be tied directly in with his music or his soul, Nami's use of Observation Haki will in some way be directly tied to her skills as a navigator. Though for both of them, this does not mean that Haki can't also assist them in their battles. Now, before we continue, if you like my videos, if you like the things that I am saying, or hey, if you just love my beard, I would invite you to please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. I noticed that a lot of people who watch the videos, well, they're not subscribed. And while that is okay, people should do what they want, I would still greatly appreciate the gesture. And any form of engagement, be it, again, likes, subscribes, comments, they are all very important for small channels, which mine most certainly is. So if this is of interest to you, just know that I would greatly appreciate it. And now, back to your regularly scheduled programming. We learned through Zeus that Nami and her Climatact are able to both house and maintain homies created by the Soul Nomi. And the now likely permanent addition of Zeus has proven to be quite the power-up for Nami already. In the Elbaf arc, she shocked Roto like a cartoon character. Consider this though, at no point have we been told that Nami or the Climatact are limited to just one homie. Now, the elements we have seen Nami control are heat, cold, electricity, and wind. So I think this opens up the possibility of her picking up other homies that can live in her Climatact and augment her powers. And the next one I would like to examine does not come from Big Mom, but instead from the fruit's previous user, Mother Carmel. And this homie is Pandora. 61 years ago, Mother Carmel placed a portion of her soul into a large fire that had broken out on Elbaf. From this combination, Pandora was born. While we don't know the fate of Pandora, if they are still around, it is highly likely that they remained on Elbaf. We know in some cases, devil fruit powers can persist beyond the user's death, so I suspect that Pandora is still around. In instances like Pandora or Zeus, where the homie is created directly from the fruit user's soul, they are also much, much stronger than homies created using outside souls. Pandora is a sun homie as well, which would not only play well into Nami being part of, you guessed it, the sun god's crew, but would also greatly augment her heat-based abilities, along with giving her more direct control over fire. Now, as of the recording of this video, we are in the Elbaf arc, meaning that Elbaf is where Nami is located, and at this time, she has just learned of Brook's past in Asperia Kingdom and has heard his resolve to save Princess Shuri. There is a good chance that Nami will be seeking any way possible to help Brook free the princess from that big block of ice. And even if this doesn't work without the help of Ragnir, I think it could be a cool spot for Nami to have a chance encounter with Pandora. Possibly feed them some heat bubbles, Zeus style, and add a new homie to her repertoire. Then she also would have access to this fire to be able to make a greater attempt at melting Shuri from the ice. We already know a lot about what Nami can do with Zeus, so what are some things she might be able to do with Pandora? One immediate advantage would be that she could send one homie out to attack an enemy while keeping the other in the climb attack for if, say, that same enemy, if they were fast, or others on the battlefield got close. Nami is genuinely the definition of a glass cannon. You look up glass cannon in the dictionary, you should see Nami right there. So taking hits is extremely detrimental for her. Having more than one homie would give her an avenue for powerful offense and defense together. Adding fire to her attack patterns could be quite devastating as well. She could combine it with wind to create things like fire tornadoes or fire clouds, known as pyrocumulonimbus in our world. Or she could shoot fireballs or heat bursts directly out of her climb attack. This would also greatly increase her control over heat and any other weather-based attacks that additional heat control lets her employ. I mentioned this before, but like how she feeds Zeus with thunderballs to keep him sustained and happy, I'm sure that she could feed Pandora with heat balls to keep Pandora sustained and happy. Now, what if there was one more homie Nami could add to her arsenal? This one almost certainly would not be on Elbaf, but instead sometime during the final war. And it would also hinge on Big Mom still being alive. At the start of this video, I mentioned the increasingly parental or motherly role Nami has taken as the story progresses. And for as crazy as she is in other areas, Charlotte Linlin, Big Mom, is very similar to Nami in that regard. We see this firsthand in Wano through her bond with Tama as both Olin and when she returns to being Charlotte Linlin. We have not gotten to see the conclusion to her story, so I think there is a good chance she will make a return. But if she does, I do not think it will be as an enemy, at least not entirely. Perhaps she'll have a little scuffle with Luffy and the Straw Hats, but I have personally long since held the belief that at some point Chopper will cure Big Mom of her hunger pangs completely, and that this, perhaps alongside other reasons, such as the Straw Hats or maybe the Grand Fleet saving Pudding, will lead Big Mom and her crew to fully ally with the Straw Hats. We already know the man, the myth, the legend, the GOAT, Katakuri, would be behind this as well. Once her story is wrapped up, however, well then I see a chance of her making a permanent exit. Perhaps even on her own terms this time. Now we know that the world government is trying to flood the world, and we know that a big global war is going to break out. These events will endanger not just those fighting, but every person in the One Piece world. Now I see a potential future scenario at the end of the story where the Straw Hats in some way get split up, right? And they all have to handle critical situations all around the world. And perhaps Nami ends up in a team up with Big Mom, perhaps to say defeat a God's Knight or some other enemy, or in a plan to save a large amount of the world's children, or at least maybe a single nation's children. Something that they both, without hesitation, would get behind. But at some point during this event or encounter, Big Mom sees the need to sacrifice herself, or she comes face to face with what she knows will be her end. But before that happens, she imparts one final homie to Nami, her own form of inherited will, you could say, to aid Nami even after Big Mom's death. Now at this point, Nami would already have Zeus and possibly Pandora. So the last homie she could gain benefit from is Napoleon. Now he is a hat sword, or a sword hat, whatever you want to say, which is not a weapon Nami would typically use. And while I'm not sure what she could feed him, Nami is smart. The rest of the crew is smart, at least Usopp and Frankie. So that trio, they could figure something out. Like the other two, I believe he would meld with her Climattact, meaning that by the end of the story, it would then be housing 3 homies. Like the others, I believe Napoleon could help improve Nami's attack and defense capabilities. We have seen her fight with a bow staff prior to gaining the Climattact. So imagine, right, if Napoleon paired with the Climattact could transform it into a Naginata type weapon, much like Whitebeard's Murakumo Giri. This way, she could bring back her earlier combat styles and even infuse Napoleon with either Zeus's lightning or Pandora's fire for powerful elemental strikes. With these 3 potential upgrades, I believe that Nami would become both a navigator and a combatant worthy of being on the Pirate King's crew, capable of both bringing them through any storm and standing up to any enemy she might face. But what do you think? What power-ups do you see Nami getting in the future? Or do you have any thoughts on the 3 I have selected that I totally missed? I would love to hear all about this in the comments section below. And as I mentioned earlier, please like and subscribe. And guess what? If you'd like to chat with me and others in the community even more, consider joining the Discord. One more self-plug in here. And with that, I would like each and every one of you to have an excellent rest of your day.